What happens when unexpected closeness turns into a heart-stirring bond? After a warm dinner at Sam's farm, she and Officer Lee find themselves drawn to each other more than ever, their friendship blossoming into something quietly profound. Day by day, Lee returns after work to help Sam with chores, sharing laughter, work, and tender moments that deepen their connection. But during one seemingly ordinary dinner, Sam feels a sudden wave of nausea and unease. Could it be morning sickness or something more serious? Subscribe now to follow their journey, uncover the mystery, and experience every heartfelt twist in their story. After the warm, intimate dinner at Sam's farm, a sense of calm lingered in the air, wrapping the entire place in a golden glow that seemed to soften every edge of the world outside. The sky had already surrendered tonight, leaving behind a tranquil darkness pierced only by the soft glimmer of lanterns swinging gently in the evening breeze. Inside the cozy kitchen, the lingering aroma of freshly cooked food still clung to the walls, filling the space with a comforting familiarity. Sam moved about with a quiet grace, clearing dishes while occasionally glancing at Lee, whose presence seemed to make everything feel lighter. There was a rhythm to their movements, a silent understanding that went beyond words, as if each gesture, each shared glance, deepened a bond that neither of them had expected to grow so quickly. Lee, sitting on a worn wooden stool by the counter, watched Sam with a mixture of admiration and something softer, something that made his chest tighten in a way that had nothing to do with the long hours spent on patrol. After weeks of relentless work, of running from one emergency to another, he had never felt a sense of peace like this, never felt that it was possible to just exist somewhere and be entirely at ease. And yet here, in this humble farm, among the simple chores and the quiet laughter that occasionally broke through their conversation, Lee discovered a part of himself that had been buried beneath the weight of duty and responsibility. He could joke without reservation, smile without thinking twice, and even let himself be vulnerable in small, almost imperceptible ways. Sam's presence seemed to invite it all, to make the world outside with its sirens and deadlines fade into insignificance. Sam herself felt it too. There was something about Lee that made the ordinary tasks of farm life, stacking hay, tending to the animals, cleaning the kitchen, feel less like work and more like a shared adventure. His steady presence beside her offered a quiet reassurance that made her chest swell in an unfamiliar warmth. She found herself noticing small details, the way his brow furrowed when he concentrated, the gentle tilt of his head when he laughed, and the subtle way his hand brushed against hers as they passed each other in the kitchen. These were tiny, fleeting moments, yet each left an indelible impression on her heart. As the evening wore on, the outside world seemed to dissolve entirely. The hum of the night insects, the occasional distant bark of a dog, and the rustle of the trees in the wind became the soundtrack to a growing closeness that was both tender and electric. It was a closeness born not from grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but from the quiet intimacy of shared space and mutual understanding. Sam and Lee sat down finally, their shoulders brushing, sharing a look that conveyed far more than words ever could. In that moment, the farm was no longer just a place. It was a sanctuary, a cocoon in which two hearts quietly, irrevocably began to intertwine. The following day, the sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a soft, golden light across the fields and painting the farmhouse in warm hues that seemed almost magical. Lee, after finishing his morning duties at the station, didn't head home as he usually would. Instead, he found himself driving along the familiar dirt path that led to Sam's farm, drawn by a quiet insistence in his chest he could neither ignore nor explain. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of freshly tilled soil and blooming wildflowers, and with each step toward the farmhouse, the tension that clung to him like a second skin gradually eased. It was as if the farm itself exhaled a gentle sigh of welcome, and in that embrace, Lee felt a profound sense of belonging. Upon arrival, he found Sam already outside, tending to the chickens with practiced ease. She looked up and smiled, a small, knowing smile that immediately made his heart skip a beat. There was no need for words. Her expression said it all. Without hesitation, Lee joined her, rolling up his sleeves and picking up a basket, the familiar rhythm of their shared labor settling over them like a comforting melody. From feeding the animals to repairing a section of the barn that had been weakened by a recent storm, they worked side by side, moving in a seamless dance born of trust and familiarity. Their hands brushed occasionally, sending sparks of warmth through both of them, and every time their eyes met, there was a fleeting moment of quiet connection that spoke volumes about the bond that had grown between them overnight. As the hours passed, the farm seemed to awaken under their care. Chickens clucked contentedly, the gentle rustle of the trees harmonized with the wind, and the scent of earth and fresh hay mingled with the lingering aroma of breakfast Sam had prepared. Lee found himself stealing glances at her, noticing the way sunlight caught the strands of her hair, the curve of her smile, the effortless way she moved through the world with a quiet strength. It was a strength he respected deeply, yet there was a vulnerability too, a soft, tender vulnerability that made him want to protect her in ways he hadn't imagined possible. And Sam, in turn, felt a growing warmth for Lee that went beyond gratitude. His presence, so steady and unwavering, offered her reassurance that no matter what storms might come, external or internal, she would not face them alone. By the time the late afternoon sun dipped low, painting the sky with streaks of pink and amber, Lee and Sam paused to rest. Sitting on the edge of the wooden porch, they shared a quiet moment, neither needing to speak. The comfort of shared silence was enough. In that space, the farm was no longer just a place of work or refuge. It had become the backdrop for a growing intimacy, a sanctuary where two hearts began to intertwine with every passing moment. The laughter, the light touches, the unspoken understanding between them all hinted at a closeness that was becoming more than friendship. And as the first stars began to pierce the twilight, both Sam and Lee sensed that this bond, fragile yet undeniable, was only just beginning to take root. As evening settled over the farm, painting the sky with shades of deep indigo and gold, the comforting routine of the day gave way to a quiet tension that Sam could not quite place. The scent of freshly cooked dinner wafted through the farmhouse, mingling with the earthy aroma of the fields outside. Yet when she sat down at the table with Lee, her appetite seemed to vanish into thin air. Each bite of food felt heavy in her mouth, each swallow met with an unfamiliar queasiness that made her pause and glance down at her hands. She shifted in her chair, pressing a hand lightly to her stomach, hoping the sensation would pass, but it only seemed to grow, a swirling mix of dizziness and nausea that sent a shiver through her spine. Lee noticed immediately. His brow furrowed with concern as he leaned forward, placing a gentle hand over hers. "Sam, are you feeling all right?" he asked, his voice low but edged with worry. The warmth of his touch was comforting, yet it also amplified the strange fluttering in her chest, a mix of nervousness and something she dared not name. Sam forced a small smile, hoping to reassure him, though it rang hollow even to her own ears. I I don't know, she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I just feel off. The tension between them was palpable, an invisible thread tightening as Lee's concern deepened. He stood, moving to get her a glass of water, his movements careful and deliberate, his eyes never leaving her face. Sam watched him, the familiar calm of his presence clashing with the storm of uncertainty inside her. Was this just a sudden illness, or was it something more? Something she had suspected but dared not confront? A fleeting thought crossed her mind, and her heart skipped, then thudded painfully in her chest. Could it be that she was feeling the first signs of pregnancy, or was it simply a random illness striking at the wrong moment? The question burned in her mind, unspoken, heavy with possibility and fear. Lee returned, kneeling beside her chair with the glass of water in hand. "Take it slowly," he said, his tone soft, yet there was a firmness there that made Sam feel safe despite the uncertainty coursing through her body. She sipped carefully, the cool liquid grounding her slightly, but the unease lingered, gnawing at her like a shadow she could not shake. He stayed beside her, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, his closeness a quiet reassurance that whatever the answer, she would not face it alone. For a moment, the noise of the world outside, the worries and duties, seemed to vanish, leaving only the two of them and the fragile, unspoken bond that had grown over shared work, laughter, and now shared vulnerability. As the evening deepened, a hush settled over the farmhouse. The flicker of lanterns cast long, dancing shadows, and the night outside seemed to hold its breath along with them. Sam's thoughts were a whirl of apprehension and wonder, and Lee's watchful gaze mirrored his own silent questions. What was happening to her? What would this mean for their lives, their growing closeness? The answers would not come tonight, leaving both of them suspended in a moment of uncertainty and anticipation. And so, as the night embraced the farm, the mystery lingered, unresolved, a cliffhanger of the heart that promised revelations and challenges in the chapters to come. The truth, whether illness or the early signs of a new life, remained hidden, to be unveiled only in the next episode, leaving both Sam and Lee and anyone who shared in their story holding their breath in quiet suspense.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Vậy là trong câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay, sau khi ờ, Sam và Ly đã có buổi tối gần gũi bên nhau, thì bây giờ tình cảm giữa Sam và Ly ngày càng gắn bó thân thiết hơn. Ngoài thời gian Ly làm việc hàng ngày tại đồn cảnh sát, thì Ly sẽ về nông trại giúp đỡ Sam và cùng Sam ăn tối. Và có một điều đặc biệt đó chính là trong buổi tối ngày hôm nay, thì trong lúc ăn cơm, Sam đã có những biểu hiện rất là lạ, như là cô khó ăn, không muốn ăn, ngửi mùi thức ăn rất là khó chịu, buồn nôn. Liệu rằng đó có phải là dấu hiệu của việc cô đang mang thai hay không, hay chỉ là dấu hiệu của một bệnh lý nào đó mà cô mắc phải? Tất cả các tình tiết hấp dẫn sẽ được hé lộ ở các video tiếp theo, sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tử Sam. Các bạn hãy nhớ bấm vào nút like, nút chia sẻ và để lại comment là dưới video nhé. Và đặc biệt đừng quên hãy bấm vào nút subscribe để đăng ký kênh, nhận được thông báo mới nhất về câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại. Bye bye.